Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's all right and that everybody's happy. Checking out everything here. 1, 2, 3. Yep, works fine. Okay. So tonight we're going to have a special night where we're going to go back in time, have stories of QSL cards like this Radio Netherlands QSL card that's in the background. And we're going to have a lot of fun with what's happening and hopefully talk about radio and have fun with radio. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a going back in time show tonight. I'll have the different stories behind the QSL cards. And of course, we're going to have audio clips. I think it's going to be a different show tonight. And it also coincides with something that is going to be called basically everything about QSL cards that you are too afraid to ask. So I hope everybody's doing fine and that everybody's going to enjoy the show tonight. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we are here to entertain and have fun talking about radio. Also, we have an announcement about something that's going to happen. And we're going to have a little break, unfortunately, and fortunately, for two reasons. I'm going to explain all of that coming soon. So this week, tonight and Saturday are the two last shows before we take a 1 month off of live shows for many different reasons. And one of them is that this office is going to be totally dismantled in about a week and a half. So no, I have no choice. But there's a good side to it. It's time to do a lot more. So anyways, I'm going to come to that soon in the show tonight. We, of course, are here to talk about radio, shortwave radio, radio in general, and have fun. This is the place where everybody is happy with radio and where everybody can ask questions and just talk about what they want about radio without having any, anyone tell them that oh well, you're ignorant and you're this or that, or I removed somebody from the group on the Facebook group because I didn't like his attitude. Every comment somebody would post was like, well, this is basic stuff and you should know. No, I don't like that attitude. That is not a good attitude to have here or on the Facebook group. Instead of having that attitude, have the attitude of, well, this is the reason why this is happening and this is how things are and this explain stuff. But I hate people that are like, well, you should know that. No, that doesn't work like that. Okay. We're not born with a shortwave radio in our hands. And we're not born with the knowledge of the world around us. We learn it. And we learn it through time. We learn it through weeks and months and years. I will not accept any comments that are in that garbage of, well, you should know this. No, that's not the way it is. I will sometimes have that attitude, but with people that should know this, if you're a licensed ham, Well, sometimes, there are questions of licensed ham that I'm like, that was in your exam and you don't even know it. So I'm questioning your license. It can happen, but I mean, for the most part, be kind, be nice. That's the way it is. We are here to enjoy radio, have fun with radio, and that's it. And your ego and your I know it all. Look, if you can explain it in a nice way to everybody, you're welcome. If it's to have an attitude that I know it all and you are idiots, we don't need people like that here. And of course, there's a fantastic chat room that people can join. And of course, this is the great part where people are helping each other, talking about radio, and just having fun. And when the party is over here, well, we have a different party that happens and continues on the Facebook group. And that's how it is. So, it's this place is to be simply who you are, have fun, and not be afraid to ask any questions. Very cool for the month of July here in Montreal in the past couple of days. Today and tomorrow are not even reaching 70. That is kind of pretty crazy and kind of cool. I'm not complaining because I'm one of the guys. I hate the really hot weather unless I'm at a swimming pool, at a pool, or at a beach. Okay, bring on the heat. But for the rest, I hate it. So I'm kind of a happy camper here with that type of weather. So hope that everybody is going to have fun. So first announcement, we'll repeat it a little later in the show. We are going to so Saturday is going to have a show, but after that we will have 1 month or 4 weeks off. And several reasons. First of all, if you guys remember before COVID, this house needed to be painted and a lot of things needed to happen. And COVID kind of messed up all of that. Well, now we're getting back into normal life. So that's one thing. This room is going to be painted in a week and a half, which means I'm going to have to totally dismantle this office. And while I'm at it, I purchased some shelves. I purchased some stuff that I will be using. And I'm getting rid of my corner desk that's been here for 20 years. I'm getting rid of another desk that is totally useless, except for crap that I put there that I don't know where to put. So it's like, yeah, if you use, a desk, or if you use some space, some storage space to just put crap that you don't use, then don't use it because it's useless. So this is one of the reasons. The other one is that in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have the fun of having some more poison in this room because they have found again some bed bugs downstairs. I don't have any here, but downstairs there are some. So that means they're doing the whole building again. That means this is going to be sprayed twice. So having to move everything, because when they spray, you have to move everything off the wall for about a feet of distance. So painting, moving everything off, having to dismantle everything. So let's go for it and let's have a total reimagined space. And that's what's going to happen here. So this is going to change. And this room will never be the same again after the month that I will be taking off from live shows. So, of course, having live shows with everything not really positioned well is kind of impossible. And that's why we're going to take a month off. So be patient, guys. We'll be back in 4 weeks after this Saturday show. So this coming Saturday is the last show for July, technically, because when we'll come back, we'll be in August. And hopefully everything will be fresh and nice and new. And I'll have actually I'll show you guys when I come back in 4 weeks what the new office and the new, which is pretty much now a YouTube studio, will be like. I still have a lot of things I'm thinking about. What should I add here or hit there, or what should I change? So all of this is going to be brand new, freshly painted, and totally, reimagined and hopefully better for the future. I also want to, when you have an unfortunate moment where you have to move everything and your office is so packed with so many things that you realize that you need to have less in your room so that if anything happens, it's easy to just move on and just to change stuff around. And I happened to learn that this year with all the things that happened. So at the same time, that change is going to actually have an improved and more mobile office, which is much easier to move around, change around, and do what you want. And at the same time, there's a lot of those. I got like under the desk over there, I've got like 8 different power bars that I don't even know half of what is plugged in. And over time, there's less and less stuff I use. So I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff I'm going to unplug and realize, oh, this thing is plugged in here, but it's not plugged at anything at the other end, for sure. So anyways, I think it's going to be nice. It's 21 years this year here. And in 21 years, very little has changed, honestly. In 21 years, I really haven't done much in this room except a little bit of moving around and changing from one side to the other. But this, I think, anyways, is a needed change and a needed new way of using my office space in this room. So, and of course, there'll be painting of all the house anyways as that goes by, since this is what it's going to be. This is what's going to happen anyways. So nice to have you here, but hope that you guys don't miss me too much for the 4 weeks I'll be off. But we'll be back in August, and hopefully with a much improved and better way of doing it. I'm thinking also and looking at how I can improve upon the lighting and how things could be much better and more mobile in here, which is going to be, I think, more interesting. So I think this is going to be, a good thing. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight, special show. We're going to talk about QSL cards. We're going to show you QSL cards on that big screen here that I have scanned about 70% of them. Still about 30% to scan left, and talk about the different radio stations that, and there's stories behind these QSL cards. I know a lot of you like the stories also. I know that a lot of you have been watching some of my QSL videos and saying, man, the stories are great, and it's a lot of fun to follow all of that. So hope everybody is going to enjoy tonight's show, and hope everybody's going to be here on Saturday for the last show before I take that 4 weeks off to reimagine and reinvent everything in the office here. So, vodka cranberry juice. Cheers, everybody. Nice to have all of you on board. Randall Clance, nice to have you here from McHenry, Illinois. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here from Morgan City, Louisiana. WA5107SWL. Blind Picker, nice to have you here, Rob. W0 RAB in Connecticut. We have J Watterson 69. Nice to have you here. Paul is downstairs annoying the neighbors. Actually, not annoying. The neighbors are having a little barbecue, and it's so funny because Paul is. So there are 4 people, and there's 5 chairs. So the 5th chair, Paul is like sitting on that chair, looking at all of them. It's like he wants to participate in the barbecue, and they're all laughing, finding it cute that my cat is there. So, Jerry DX, nice to have you here. 45 unit, nice to have you on board. Got lucky in Eastern Florida and missed Elsa today. Hopefully others along the path will be safe. Wonder how Joe's studio, man cave, remodeling is coming along. Oh, it's going to. You guys are going to see what's going to be in 4 weeks. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board. And he's waiting for the Paul the Cat show. I need to do that, a special channel, Paul the Cat show. Today, Paul is going to show you how he likes his whiskas. David KJ4CMY, left side of the storm. So far, we had a couple of squalls, but the big squall comes at around 11 p.m. Stay safe. James Farley, nice to have you on board from New Jersey. What happened to 9330? So apparently, WBCQ, the announcement on Twitter was that the big power tube that gives out that 500 kilowatts actually cracked and split in half. So once again, he's blaming defect in that the transmitter had faults and that it's not his problem. Anyways, if I had to comment on that, I think they just don't know what they're doing with that transmitter and the antennas. And that's why all of that is happening. Honestly, come on, okay? Too many problems. You guys don't know what you're doing. And it's just funny. I think that, it's not impossible that there's defects and stuff, but there's too many of them for it not to be like, yeah, you don't know what you're doing with that 500 kilowatt transmitter. So, anyways, $100,000 apparently for a tube to be replaced there, and that they come from France. So, anyways, I don't know if what they're gonna do, but anyway, we'll see. Anyways, you know what? 9330 is a big junk, useless 500 kilowatts of world's, flat earthers crap. I don't even care if they're off the air on 9330, honestly. Rufus Newt, nice to have you here from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario, VE3055SWL. Joe, nice to have you on board from Newmarket, Virginia. Dave Dufault, nice to have you on board from Indy. Christian Marcoux, salut, j'espère que ça va bien. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with tonight. We'll see. Mike WDX50, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. TVDXer, salut, ça va, et toi, j'espère que ça va bien. Nice to have you on board from not very far from Montreal. Paul from St. Joe, Michigan, nice to have you here. Augustin Bernard, nice to have you on board. John Beckham, nice to have you here. Richard Bittner, which MLA30 do you have? Is it your primary antenna? So right now on the front balcony, it's the original MLA30. I do have 2 MLA30 pluses, but they're not different. Honestly, if you have a 30 or 30 plus, there's pretty much no difference. I thought at the beginning there was, but it was more the positioning. The fact that they weren't exactly in the same space. In reality, there really isn't much. And yes, it is my primary antenna. It works great, and that's what is important. Jet Crafter, nice to have you on board from Maine. Mike WDX50, I like going back in time. I can remember all those cool QSL cards I had back in the 80s before my mom tossed them. Yeah, that must hurt. If my if my mom had thrown away my QSL cards, I would have been so mad. I mean, especially because there's a lot of effort in you know, doing the reports and everything for the QSL cards. Man, you must feel you better not think about it too much. Charlie W8CFO, nice to have you here from Columbus, Ohio. And by the way, that's why I actually am 70% done in making them digital, because the paper cards are nice and I really loved having the albums and go through it. But I did this because I was thinking, well, if someday something would happen and I lose the paper ones, it could be a fire or anything. You never know. I will have a digital copy of all of them, so it's not like a complete loss. I still have my cards that I can go through. They're just going to be, digital. All right, JDA Dakota, nice to have you here from Winsville. WA0113SWL, nice to have you on board. Jay Watterson wants a QSL card from Paul. Oh, man. Global Unboxing TV, nice to have you on board from France. Jeff King, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. So finally, the storm is avoiding Florida pretty much in this weekend, from what I've seen. So that's good. Tom DXer, WPE2QED from the Hudson Valley, New York. Dimitri, nice to have you on board. Rodrigo Galter, nice to have you here from Brazil. Radio listening on radio waves, both on HF. Dean Hintz, nice to have you on board from Middle Georgia. Terry Cook, nice to have you here from KF7BQ. ADUF Arojo, nice to have you on board from Sao Paulo, Brazil. SoCal, nice to have you here from Ramona, California. AJ6II or LL, is it? I think. Victor Osorio, nice to have you on board from Honduras. John Beckham, yeah, blank picker. J-Man Ranger, nice to have you here. KI4WYV. Roger Gogalter, well, last chance via WBCQ continues off at 9332 to loss of 500 kilowatt transmitter. Yep, absolutely. Dean says, love this channel and Facebook group. Have learned so much from just listening to everyone. Cool. Abassine Podcast, nice to have you here from Toronto, Ontario. Tom DXer, send some of that cool weather my way. Felt 105 today. Oh man, that's way too hot. I would if I could. John Beckham says, I used to truly enjoy DXing the various shortwave stations and obtaining a QSL card by program content, GMT broadcast time and frequency verification. By the way, let's just out of curiosity look at the email, because I forgot to say there's an email, official shortwave radio at gmail.com if you want to say hi. Through email, we have Richard Lemke saying hello from Alberta. And he's actually asking my impressions or my opinion about something from Texas Shortwave QSL policy. So apparently what they are saying is, we want to know why you are listening. Listeners must include thoughtful comments about the program content. I like the music isn't good enough. Why did you like the music? Why didn't you like the music? What type of music would you rather we play? Do you have a song or an artist requests? So, nice to have you here, by the way, Richard. I can get it because there's a lot of QSL hogs out there, and one of the biggest problems with that is that at some point you get a lot of reports that are, I get it that you want to have a QSL card, and I was a QSL hog when I was a teenager, but it was more of I didn't know better than anything else. It's later in life, and especially I think when you start seeing the stations go away, that you start appreciating and start understanding that what you've got to do is, if you write a station for a QSL, the least you can do is give thoughtful comments. And I understand the policy. It's there to because they want you they want to have your opinion of what you like and don't like. And it's true that if somebody just, it's like, oh, I love your show. Yeah, I love your show. What did you like about the show? If I would today send for a QSL, I would explain what I like, what shows I listen to the most. And if I don't like something or something I don't listen to much, I will let them know this is the program I don't listen much, like Radio Romania. I would give them a lot of, information about, all the shows, the moments they have where they talk about the communist era in Romania. I love that. I kind of love the history around it. And especially from a country that lived it and that can now express openly the opinion of why and how it was back then. I would let them know I like that. I like, the news, the information about Romania itself and the different areas of Romania. The cooking show, which is always intriguing. But I will be very honest and say, I'm not a big fan of listening to music on shortwave in general. So I'm not, I tune out when there's Romanian music, for example. Not because I don't like your music. It's not the type of programming that attracts me as a radio listener. But that's me, because I know some of you love that. Some of you will say, hey, I love the Romanian music you play. It's so cool. Because everybody is different in what they like and what they want when it's shortwave. But at least if you take the time to really mention a lot of that information, and then you ask the QSL card, you know what? They're going to be much more inclined in saying, yeah, well, we're going to give him that QSL card because it's really interesting, the comments and the things that he's talking about. If you are putting out a program out there, you want to know what people like and don't like. You don't want people just saying, hey, I want to have that QSL and I love your show. Yeah, that's kind of, very basic. I love your show. It's rather basic in comments, So I understand why somebody could at some point become frustrated and just QSLing. There was this, I think it's Scandinavian Weekend Radio. Glenn Hauser, a few weeks ago, like maybe a month and a half ago, he had a comment from the guy behind Scandinavian Weekend Radio, where he was saying that there's this guy in India that was sending reception reports. And because of the time and the frequency, it was totally impossible that the guy in India heard the program. So the guy was mad, saying, why do people send fake reception reports? And he doesn't want to have SDR reports. If you listen on an SDR, he's not interested in sending you a QSL. That's his thing. That's more controversial because for me, for example, Scandinavian Weekend Radio, I have not heard that ever here. I don't even think it actually comes to North America, really. So if I need a QSL from them, I know that I would actually need to use an SDR in Europe, probably. That for me is a little controversial. I get it that you would like somebody to hear you from their own country. I am not necessarily. It's not something that I think should be done. That there is. I'm not sending a QSL because the report comes from an SDR. I mean, come on. A lot of people won't hear you ever, and that was the way they could hear your station. As long as they're honest and saying, "Oh, I heard your station from the Iceland, Reykjavik, Iceland SDR." It's okay, you made it there, and I would send a QSL card to somebody like that. But I don't know. Some people are a lot more into the real world experience of all of that, and they don't want to have SDRs, and it all goes with that controversy anyways of well, you're cheating, you're using an SDR. It's like you're cheating if you're using an SDR on a signal that could make it to your town. Yes, but you know if you can't, because of time and frequency, hear a station. For example, look at Bangladesh. Times and frequencies that are left for Bangladesh, that's never going to make it in North America, ever. The last frequency from Bangladesh Betar that really made it was mostly the one in the 22-meter band, 13 megahertz. A 60-meter band at the time they're broadcasting, forget it. So my only possibility of getting a QSL would be to use an SDR. That I don't find it to be a problem. It's not cheating, because cheating is when you could hear it at home but use an SDR. It's not cheating when you just don't hear it at home. And I don't know. There's a lot of different thoughts on this, but my thought is you have to use an SDR if it's a signal that is never gonna make it to your hometown. That's it. There's a lot of little stations in the Middle East and Asia that broadcast at times and frequencies that never going to be heard here. You got to use an SDR if you want to hear them. That's the thing. So that's controversial. But I understand why stations can sometimes just go crazy over people that don't really comment. And another thing that's interesting here is all those people that use an SDR recording and pretend that it's what they heard at home. And that was another one from Scandinavian Weekend Radio, because he got the same guy that had sent the first report sent another one with a recording. And once again, he knows that the frequency doesn't propagate to India at that time. And he was listening and he was like, yeah, this is obviously off in SDR. And especially with the strong signal there was and everything. And he was pissed. He was like, why people lie about, just for a QSL card? That I agree. I mean, I wouldn't be happy to have a QSL card that I cheated on. I mean, come on. So you got a QSL card from a station, but you never heard it? I don't see how that QSL card is that good or that fun to have or own, honestly, But anyways, there's a lot of, controversy around this, and there's a lot of different school of thought on what is what and how to do it and so on. What else do we have? We have Gordon Series 385. Nice to have you on board. Appalachian Underground. Nice to have you on board from Alabama. Log 2112. Nice to have you here. Skip. Nice to have you on board into EI. Carl Icon, New York, checking in. Did anyone catch the VLF transmission from Grimtown Station in Sweden on July 4th? Yeah, that was not one that I would receive here in Montreal. But every time they do it, there's a certain number of people in North America that seem to log it. on that very, very low frequency of, what is it, 17 kilohertz, I think. That's low. But it is cool that they reactivate that old school transmitter from time to time. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. What else do we have? No, let me try to find where I was. Okay, here we are. David, KJ4CMY, we are going to suffer from official shortwave channel withdrawal. So, yeah, John, I think, it's the best thing to check it out. Paul says 698.5 upper sideband MarsNet. Yeah, it could be a MarsNet. It could be a Civil Air Patrol net. There's a lot of them at this time. RJ Dakota says, compare the XH Data D808 to the PL330. So that is something that needs to be done more. Absolutely. I need to do a little more videos on that with all the time that I can. And by the way, I'll be doing videos. But as much as I can with all the things I have to do in between. So, it's not going to be 4 weeks of nothing on the channel. There's going to be videos of comparing, testing different radio stuff, trying to go to Perry Island, which I haven't done yet. I really need to. So, John Beckham, 4 weeks is a long time to go without hearing and seeing you and Paul. Yeah, it's going to go fast. You're going to see, guys. You're going to be happy in August when I come back. Dean says, love the stories, my friend. Being the same age as you and growing up in southern Minnesota, you have reminded me of many things I too experienced in my younger years. Joe, nice to have you here from the Chicago area. Terry Cook has Army Mars call signs on 6968.5 upper sideband. Victor Osorio, why in the world they didn't buy an Hotel solid state transmitter? I don't know why they didn't go solid state. I know that a lot of transmitters today still use tubes because of the very high power. 500 kilowatts that's a lot of energy. And sometimes it has to do with, what the budget is, and sometimes it could have to do also with the way that it's set up there. But it's anyone's guess why they went to a tube transmitter, not solid state. Log 2112 TAH, that is from Turkey on the 8430. Cool. John Beckham, I always thought that it was so cool to call your QSL cards wallpaper. Yeah. Yep. Mike WDX50, I'd like to make some of my former QSL cards as posters. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes there's a couple of my QSL cards that I wanted to buy photo paper and have them like 8x10 rather than just the small card that they are. That could be a lot of fun too. Paul lost 2 shoe boxes of QSLs in the 70s, 80s over the years. Life happens. Yeah, unfortunately. So, Brad in Amarillo got a new card just yesterday from the Department of the Army in recognition for participating in the Armed Forces Day Crossband event. Cool. That's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Lock 312 got a beauty QSL card from Radio Kiev in 79. Would make a nice poster. Wow. Pretty cool. Gang of 4. Nice to have you here from New Hampshire. Jetcrafter 6968 USB weak but readable in Maine. Mike WX50. 2 QSLs I would like as posters, Radio Luxembourg and Radio Belize. Talking of Radio Belize, I just signed an email that here is Um, our friend Mike WEX50 just sent me the Radio Belize QSL. Look at that, guys. That is Radio Belize QSL. It's pretty cool, eh? Pretty cool. I don't have one from there. There's so many countries that I miss a QSL card that were on the air when I was listening back then. And I'm sad that I didn't have a good enough equipment. It took time and didn't hear the stations really. A lot of them probably were weaker, and also the mix of knowing when and where to listen and so on. Gang of Four. Well, the rest of WBCQ is on the air. Gang of Four. The regular frequency 6160, 7490. These are on the air. 9330 is off because of a blown tube in the 500 kilowatt transmitter. Mike WX50, Radio Tashkent had a cool QSL card that would make a good poster too. JDA Dakota, sometimes music stations are very cool because they bring music from places like Brazil. Yeah, it depends on the music, I would guess. Maybe it's just that I don't like Romanian music personally. But I got to agree that, for example, Radio Nacional de Brazil on some evenings has some really nice Brazilian music. Greece has some very unique, Greek music. So absolutely. And, we all like different things off of shortwave also. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not asking that they remove the music show. I'm just going to be honest that it's not what I listen to personally. And that's why everybody needs to write and let them know, well, I like that personally. So that, it's not just one person that changes everything, it's crazy. Mike WEX50 used to listen to Solomon Islands. They had local music and commercial. Thought it was pretty cool. Canadian radio TV guy, having stream issues on my end, keeps lagging and giving me error messages. Hope it's going to be better now. Hope it's going to be better now. What else do we have? What else are we going to have? Just John Beckham says shortwave stations that had mailbag type shows like DX tip station frequencies were always so cool to me. I always enjoyed that. I like the mailbag shows a lot. When I was a teenager, particularly, it showed me that there's a lot of people around the world doing the same thing that I was doing, which is listening to shortwave. And it felt like we were a big community of people doing this, which was a lot of fun. Dave Scarpa, what does everyone recommend for a decent receiver around $400? Well, if you have $400 to spend, just buy a Texan H501X and you'll be okay. That's pretty much it. What else do we have? Dimitri, Gilles, you can put all your QSL cards on the wall around your new desk. You can also share the history behind. Yeah, but I'd rather keep them in their book. I could make a like a wallpaper of QSLs by printing them maybe, but who knows? Paul says, in my opinion, it's not cheating if you hear through your antenna with an SDR. It's not cheating if you send a report telling them it is via remote SDR. No, as long as I'm of that thought. As long as you tell them where you heard them, I also don't think it's cheating. Radio Free Grenada, playing music and commercials. I never heard Radio Free Grenada, unfortunately. Jetcrafter 5505, Shannon Volmet coming in well from Ireland in Maine, GP5 and Emily 30. Cool. What else do we have? Canadian Radio TV guy. I tested other streams and working fine. It's just show that keeps having issues, but seems fine. It won't let me watch live. It only lets me watch with a few second delay. Weird. Yeah, Radio Free Grenada. I remember they had unusual frequencies. Absolutely. So people are having playback errors, apparently. I don't know. Here it says stream is fine. And when I look at the status of the stream, everything seems to be okay. It's all green here anyways. So I don't know what is creating that issue for you guys. Because here it looks, everything is green. So I don't know. What else do we have? John Beckham. I suppose that the main objective of stations issuing a DX or QSL card is for station performance feedback regarding its propagation and the listener's geographic location. For a long time, that used to be the case. For a long time, it was one of the almost only reasons or ways for a station to know if they were actually being heard. So for a long time, and actually that's what started QSL cards, is the fact that stations would need the feedback of its listeners to know where they're actually reaching, what area, and how good of a signal they had. But today, honestly, QSL card is really just a novelty, because any station that wants to know if their signal is going to different areas, they could just go online, use SDRs, and check by themselves. They don't need the feedback from listeners. But the program definitely would be probably one of the areas why writing in is still a good thing. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see this. Doug Smith, nice to have you here from Virginia Beach. Dimitri, 5800 kilohertz in Minnesota English station. That's from WRMI. 5800 is WRMI. Yep, that was your Radio Belize QSL, Mike. Paul says 5505. It's not Gander. It's 5505 is Shannon, Ireland. Isaac Mazik. The more power that a transmitter outputs in its final stage, the higher the heat. Tubes can take more heat than transistors. Yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot of good transistorized 500 kilowatt stuff today, for sure. Jim from Rhode Island, nice to have you here. Joseph Richard, nice to have you on board. So people are having playback errors. That's kind of interesting. Weird. Maybe it's the way that the stream linked to YouTube. Kamaxi 1976 having a problem as well. Same thing with a different YouTube person I was watching. So it's maybe a YouTube issue tonight. It's possible. It's possible. John Beckham, I believe you reviewed Reticus TR-105 full coverage pocket portable. It appears to be the same radio as the Hanrongda HRD737. Would you recommend it? Look, the HRD737 for me is not something that I like, because it overloads totally. So I don't know. Some people say they are having a good good receive on it. maybe it's the the overload of FM stations from here more than anything else, honestly. Because I I here it just doesn't receive. It's a crappy radio, honestly. Shortwave is useless, and most of what the VHF range is also pretty useless. Richard Califano, nice to have you on board from Albany, New York. You're so right when you said just have fun with shortwave. I have decided to go with the RSP-18. Thanks for the advice. Cool. Charlie, W8CFO has 5550 New York Center. No, I'm not going to start a new stream. There's a lot of different streams. I was looking at YouTube's information on a different page here. It seems that a lot of other streams are all experiencing some issues. It's not me or the way that it is. It possibly is YouTube having issues with the streaming of live stuff. Dimitri, what are the station of 5847? Some news. 5850. That must be, at this time, you must be hearing Radio Slovakia broadcast via WRMI. It's 5850, actually. 5850. Jetcrafter, USA Air Force high-frequency global communication system, booming in, 4724-8992 in upper sideband. So cool, nice to have everybody here. Hope the stream gets better. But I'm not the only one. I see that there's a lot of streamers are complaining that viewers are saying they're having crappy experience tonight. It's funny because it's a Wednesday. And if you guys remember, last time this happened was also Wednesday a couple of months ago. Kind of weird. YouTube probably having some issues tonight. So, hey, we're going to talk about QSL cards, and we're going to talk about the different cards that I have here, and we'll actually have maybe a little bit of audio clips with some of them just for the going back in time. John Beckham, I'm glad to hear BBC broadcasting again on shortwave. Actually, it's not broadcasting again. BBC never left shortwave. BBC has never left shortwave. BBC is just not broadcasting to North America. But the BBC is still it's a major shortwave broadcaster still, but focusing more on Africa, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East and Asia. But they never left. A lot of people, that's one thing that I hear very often from people saying there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that think Radio France is gone, or BBC is gone, or the Voice of America is gone, and the thing is that it's not. It's just that what happens is that they aren't as easily heard in North America, and people have a tendency to think, oh well, I guess they're gone from shortwave. It's just that they refocus their broadcasts to other areas of the world. So it's kind of interesting. Jetcrafter says no streaming issues here, so it probably depends where you are. Probably depends where you are. So Joe says that down detector YouTube is spiked up, so that means YouTube is having some issues. What else do we have? Dave says it got the ISS SSTV on his IHRD 737. So you know what? What I would say about it is I can't. Here it's useless, but maybe if you live in a place where it's more of a quiet environment on the of FM and VHF range, maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe it's just that mine is overloaded totally, so it becomes useless here. It's like that K180 WLA antenna. That antenna is a wideband version, basically, of the MLE30. But here it's useless. Shortwave doesn't work, and it's overloaded totally by all the FM stations. But I know that some of you have it and have extremely good experience with it. So it's, I think, dependent on the environment where you are. Paul, speaking of QSL, just now received a Radio New Zealand eQSL. I did ask if I could send postage for a card, but it's not going to happen. We regret we no longer send our Radio New Zealand literature or QSL cards. Yeah, it's a lot. It costs them so much money. And, eQSLs is fine. Honestly, I see a lot of people complaining about eQSLs. And let's not complain about eQSLs. eQSLs is having the hobby continue. So, you know what? That I'd rather have eQSLs than no QSL at all. And you can print them up if you have a printer. What I do here is when I get an eQSL, I print it up on photo paper, and it just works great. So it's kind of cool. William Helms, local TV station, got Tropical Storm Elsa from Alarmist. Man, guess people not knowing any better need motivation. Some people are just there to kind of go and just go crazy with stuff. John Beckham, some shortwave radios need your body's induction to reduce FM interference. Dave, Gilles, do you consider SSTV reception a form of QSL? If I would receive a slow scan TV from a ham operator, or if I receive slow scan TV from a pirate radio station, honestly, if the ID, so for example, if the station has its name in that SSTV image, like Wolverine Radio, for example, I consider that pretty much a QSL. I mean, you got it at your location, you received it, you can print it. I would honestly think or use that as pretty much as a QSL. Radio Pushka, nice to have you here. Hang in there. There's a lot of people tonight with a lot of different streams complaining. X80Xer, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. And it's cool to have everybody here. Or radiogram instead of QSL. Yeah, it's kind of a QSL. It's kind of a QSL. I mean, it's a printed form or a digital form of reception. So yeah, why not? Why not? It's proof of reception. And I mean, if you decode an SSTV image, for example, it's proof of reception. You've got an image that you decoded with your computer. It is a proof of reception. So, hey, guys, I'm going to pause the chat a little bit. And hopefully you guys, the streamer, is going to get better, hopefully. So we're going to talk about QSL a little bit tonight. So what you see behind me is a QSL card. And this is Radio Netherlands QSL card. And, these are a lot of fun to check out. Actually, I need the other keyboard. Radio Netherlands, one of those stations that I think a lot of you have been, probably miss over the years. Man, not necessarily this QSL, but Radio Netherlands for me has memories of, first of all, Radio Netherlands, I think we can all agree, was a dominant station on our shortwave bands. They were one of the stations that actually used relay stations. So they would transmit, for example, to North America if you had a Bonaire, Netherlands Antilles transmitter site. I think it was one of the popular shortwave stations. They had a lot of really interesting programming. They were very focused on shortwave also. And man, I remember they had so much literature that you could actually get. They would have radio reviews. They would have booklets on how to build antennas and how shortwave works. I mean, it was crazy. Crazy cool. And I think this was really a lot of one of the stations that a lot of us miss, honestly, and that a lot of us probably grew up because it was one of those easy to hear stations, partly because of their relays. Interval signal of Radio Netherlands, of course. That one is a well-known one. So here's another recording. Let me check this one. I don't know what that is all about.
On the table, delving through our archives for the making of this program, and engineer Rick Kingma for putting it together. I'm Dira Sujan. On behalf of my colleagues, past and present, I'd like to thank you all for listening and wish you one final goodbye from Radio Netherlands worldwide.
So that was the Radio Netherlands goodbye of June 29th, 2012. So it's what? 9 years. 9 years since they've gone. Pretty crazy.
Radio Netherlands, the Dutch international service. There. I've said it for nearly the last time after 65 years on the air. The truth is, though, is that our pedigree goes back to the dawn of radio, and that's why we're playing Eddie Startz's Nice Cup of Tea, his signature tune from Happy Station, which itself started in 1927 as part of PCJ Radio. He said for a nice cup of tea. We're coming to you now live from Selfier or Studio 4, and this is the little studio from which we broadcast everything, at least since I've been here, everything, even since we automated our broadcasts. It's all come from right here in this little room. So it is fitting that we end here live, and we're just minutes from the very end of the very last broadcast of Radio Netherlands in English. Dutch has already closed, and most of the other services are closing down as well today. And there's been a party atmosphere at the station. This will be in stark contrast with the silence of the near-empty building come Monday. And for this last broadcast, this is how we're going to go out. Right now, we're going to start the bells. I'm sure that most of you recognize this. It's Merk toch hoe sterk, our interval signal that would announce Radio Netherlands' arrival to the shortwaves. And we'll play the bells to the end, and when they finish, we'll do something a little different. We'll play the Dutch national anthem, De Wilhelmus, and then there will be silence. You won't hear from us again on shortwave. But this isn't the end. Our new task, for the few of us who are left behind, will be to build something new and ambitious. For 65 years, we have been a broadcaster that has had the tremendous good fortune to be totally editorially independent. We were never a government mouthpiece. This was a rare thing during the heydays of shortwave, and it is today. So, as of Monday, we are being asked to look at the world and to search for places where the media is less than free and lend a hand. And in some cases, we'll be going to them, and where that's not possible, we will help them come to us. It's a worthy task, and I, for one, am happy to do it because, frankly, that's what we were doing anyway, right? Hundreds of you have written in over the last week. We've read all your comments, and we feel really great about them, so thank you so much for writing. And above all, thank you for listening. Thank you for valuing what we did. Thank you for letting us know it was worthwhile. We are profoundly moved, and we hope that sometimes we moved you too. As Dr. Seuss said, don't cry.
Pretty crazy, eh? That I remember I was listening to that broadcast that night. And there are stations through time, you know, I mean, most of the shortwave stations that we grew up with, for those of us that have been listening for a long time, would often just disappear. You know, there are stations we'd listen to, and someday they're not there anymore. A lot of them left because the transmitters gave off, or you know, didn't have any money to repair. A lot of Africans actually disappeared because of that. Transmitters were old, they worn out, they stopped working. They just didn't have the money to repair them. But there are stations that left shortwave and that had a profound impact on when you think of how it happened, because they had a, you know, I particularly enjoyed stations that had a farewell program. I always thought that the stations that took the time to do a goodbye show were very, very professional and very honest with us. It was, after all, a lot of us were listening, and Radio Netherlands, an example, you could hear the last show here. When you think about it, I mean, to create a show just to say thank you and say goodbye is great. It's a respectful way of going away. Unfortunately, a lot of stations on shortwave, we knew a cutoff date, but never did a show. They were just cut off, and that's it. I remember HCJB. HCJB had kind of a little special that last night of, you know, kind of a live show that lasted an hour or something, just saying goodbye. It's pretty crazy. Some of the stations that probably touched me more when they left shortwave. So Radio Netherlands is one of them. HCJB was a big one for me also. I think a lot of people listening to HCJB also would agree that that was a pretty good, you know, one of those stations that that you're gonna miss, you know, with everything that's there. Let's move on here to. So this is Radio Romania, Curacao card. What is this? OB radio station. Is that Radio Sweden? Radio Sweden, yes, it is. This is a Radio Sweden Curacao card. That's a station I miss. Radio Sweden was one of those stations. This is a card from 2009. 0130 UTC on 6010. So 2009, 11 years ago. Radio Sweden, Curacao. Radio Sweden. That's a station I like. I like the Nordic countries for some reason. I was kind of hooked to some of those Nordic countries. Just checking the chat room quickly. Gang of Four. Many people came from the Netherlands 100 years ago. John Beckham. Really like their bells chiming during the intervals. Keegan, XNEDXer, 4th of July had some FMDX e-skip. Stations from Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Cool. Dan V, nice to have you here. From Ohio, NAWJZ, go Canadien. John L. Williams, nice to have you here from Arizona. Patrick Moore, nice to have you here. Kimberly, K6YYL from California. Pretty cool. John L. Williams is from Arizona. Mike WDX15 never associated the interval signal from Radio Netherlands as being Dutch. Yeah. So Calf, 90 degrees at 6 p.m. Mike WDX50 by Radio Netherlands. You are missed. Yes, absolutely. RJDA Dakota, my first was Radio RSA. Man. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. A happy station show. Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. What else do we have? Brett Wayne, nice to have you here. Says Roku is playing just fine. Can't get you on my PC. Error occurred. Yeah, YouTube is having some issues. If you can at least listen to the, I'll try to make as much a description as possible of what's happening. You can listen to the audio at least. William Helms, my dad, the old school guy he would go down there himself. Okay. John Beckham, those bells and their interval signal sound will remain burned in our shortwave memories forever indeed. Absolutely. I haven't seen podcasts. What if there was a QSL app where you'd record the proof of reception via short video and send to inbox and the radio station on the app? Yeah. But you can already send, kind of short audio clips to stations, and, they will often acknowledge all of that. Patrick Moore, it's beautiful. They took the time to do that. I remember when one of our local FM stations went out the air like 2 decades ago on this day. Radio RSA did a finale show. I don't remember that. HCJB, Voice of the Andes from Quito. I remember they had like a 1 hour. Yes, it did hit me when Radio Canada International shut down. I listened to every frequency that was capable to receive here. What I found sad of RCI shutting down is no end show, no goodbye, just we're gone. That was a sad moment. It was a sad moment for RCI because I knew that this was the voice of Canada to the world, and that shutting down meant that anywhere around the world there was no more Canadian viewpoint of whatever world events and what's happening here. That was a sad moment, absolutely. Mike WX50 says Radio Sweden was great. N3JW, very nostalgic show, as I've been shortwave listening since 1957. A big scratch behind the ears from me to Mr. Paul. Absolutely. I'll do that later. I'll scratch Paul and pet Paul for all of you later on. Abyssine podcast, only QSL card I ever got was from Radio Havana about a decade and a half ago. Keegan says, my dad, W9JEF, has QSL cards in the background of his bio page on QRZ.com. Canadian Radio TV guy says, it's weird how every time Joel is streaming, there's a Montreal game on. Yeah. My WDX50, Radio Sweden had some funny, irreverent shows that were very entertaining. Yep. There was Radio Sweden had this flow and their show that was like, we do a show from Sweden, we talk about Sweden, but we do it in a relaxed, fun way. It was definitely very unique compared to a lot of other stations. Shelly Sykes, nice to have you here, Shelly from Pennsylvania. Hot, but still prefer over snow. John Beckham says, when I think of CBC, I see that big maple leaf. So, yeah. So, this is a QSL cut from Radio Sweden. How about we do a little go back in time? Radio Sweden had a show. At a show where they actually talked about shortwave, and it was called Sweden Calling the Xers. And here is Radio Sweden recording from 1980 of Sweden Calling the Xers. So this is from 1980.
Welcome to edition number 1575 of Sweden Calling the Xers. And today's program was compiled with the help of 65 contributors. And this week we'll start off with some publications. First of all, Mickey Vasella has just published the third issue of External Services of African Stations. That's issued on a regular basis each March, May, September, and November as a free supplement for the subscribers to QTH Africa, which comes out every 10 days. External Services of African Stations is also available separately for 2 IRCs, and that's for airmail anywhere in the world. If you're interested, you could write to QTH Africa, Post Office Box 282.
So that was Sweden Calling the Xers. This is Radio Sweden interval signal.
Radio Sweden, Stockholm.
The feeling I have with this, when I started,
Ni lyssnar till Radio Sweden, Stockholm.
so when I started to listen to shortwave in 82, we went into 83, and in the spring of 83 and somewhere around April, we had so I was in high school, there was a teacher strike. And for about 2 weeks, we didn't have school. And that time, I remember distinctly, it was gray and cold April that year, and I would do reception reports. And I actually, one day that it was, I hadn't had any QSL cards in the mail for days. I was kind of bummed out. It was like, wow, I have no school and not even getting mail from stations I'm writing to. And it was really, really sad. And I came back home and I thought that the postman had already passed, but it turned out he had not. He was later than usual. So I got back home and there was a big envelope in my mailbox with Radio Sweden. And I remember like jumping up and down. It was my first ever letter and from Radio Sweden that I've had. And when I hear the interval signal and their little song that they play afterwards, it, in my head, it triggers that gray, cool April teenage day where I opened the mailbox and had that letter. Oh man, it's like there's so much souvenirs and there's so much feel behind some of the cards and some of the things. Pretty crazy. So Mike WX50 says, if it was in 1980, I may have been listening to that show from Sweden. Keegan on July 4th heard other stations from Mexican states. So pretty cool. Bonne nuit à TVDXer SMZ. Curtis Gump, we're going to have a heat wave out here this weekend. So, wow, pretty crazy. Take it easy. Rob, nice to have you here from 108 degrees Phoenix, Arizona. Ouch, too hot for me. Dimitri, saw a lot of QSL cards from the gold age of shortwave stations on the YouTube. Yeah, there's a lot of videos and stuff about that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what else do we have? Let's go through here and check that out. See what other QSL cards we might have of interest. So this is Radio Havana, Cuba. So Radio Havana, Cuba from 2015. So that one isn't that old, 6 years old. Radio Northern Ireland. This is from a guy in Ireland that did his show via a few stations, including, I think, WRMI. So pretty cool. WRMI QSL card. This is one that I got. It's the only one I have from WRMI, actually. So WRMI QSL card. That's fairly recent also. John Beckham says, Radio Sweden reminds me of a Swedish girlfriend that I had back in 1973. Wow. We have, this one is, wow. Radio Sweden also. This one is from Radio Sweden also, from 2001. So, yeah, interesting. Some pots. So Radio Sweden. This is Radio Romania International from a report of 2017, 4 years ago. This is Turkey, Voice of Turkey. So this is a Voice of Turkey from 2011. Voice of Turkey, thanks to the fact that they are still on shortwave. You know, it's interesting because I get a lot of kind of hate mail of some people sometimes of, well, you shouldn't talk about this or that station. You shouldn't, promote a station that is anti-American or is this or that. And sometimes you just want to say, there are stations around the world that talk about different things, and we got to embrace the fact that every country, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not with the rhetoric that goes behind it, has a voice. And I'm happy to have Voice of Turkey on the air. And you might not agree with the programming. I mean, that's a big part of it. Has always been shortwave. Has always been that. The point of view, especially imagine the Cold War, the point of view of whoever, around the world, and that's it. And it's kind of weird when I have somebody kind of telling me, well, you shouldn't promote this or that, because for me it's irrelevant. Every country has its own voice, and that's, don't listen to it if you don't like it. But personally, I'd rather have stations, the more stations possible, and make your own viewpoint. We were talking on the International Reader Report the other time, a couple of weeks ago, about how the truth is somewhere in the middle between, different viewpoints. And, you take some, you leave some, but why not talk about something that exists and that is there because you're not happy about what they're saying? Just don't listen to it. So, Sergeant Rock, nice to have you here. Great show in YouTube video audio into Hawaii. As I Chromecast on a 65-inch TV. Cool. Have a great vacation. Yeah, it's not going to be that much of a vacation. I'll have so much things to do, but you know. What else do we have? Yarabamba, and I say, have you here? Radio Sweden, like other shortwave radios, had a program specific, which is with Sweden calling the Xers. Yep, that was nice. John Beckham, didn't Turkey have two different shortwave stations, and one in Ankara and the other in Istanbul? Well, Ankara had Voice of Turkey. The only other station I kind of that is from Istanbul is that maritime station. TAH, that somebody was logging just earlier, actually, which is from Istanbul. So they had marine utility from Istanbul, Turkey. And they had the Voice of Turkey, which was from the Ankara station. What else do we have? Let's see what... So that's Turkey, Radio Romania. I got a lot of QSLs from Romania. Eh? Well, Radio Sweden again, 2007. You know what? I think I was nearing the end. I was actually seeing that they were near the end, and I QSL'd Radio Sweden a lot. So KBS World Radio, this one, verification card from KBS World Radio, 12 to 13 UTC on 9650. On October 2012. So KBS. And actually, if you guys in North America wake up early, their morning transmission to North America that is, I think, at 13 UT, 15575. Lots of people been monitoring and saying that they're receiving it really well. So this is a KBS World Radio QSL. And a little trivia here, guys. If you've been listening to shortwave for a long time, you know that South Korea was not always called KBS World Radio. It was actually called Radio Korea in the 70s and 80s. So today we have Voice of Korea, which is North Korea. But in the 70s and 80s, KBS, even though it was from KBS and they were still talking about the Korean broadcasting system, the station was called Radio Korea. And let's check out here a little interval signal from KBS World Radio interval signal. As it is one of those that reminds me a lot of
Chers amis francophones, amoureux du pays du matin clair.
This is the beginning of the program, but I remember the interval signal because when I got Radio Korea for the first time, so let's check out here, KBS. There we go. So back in the 70s and 80s, Radio Korea was out of Seoul, Korea, South Korea. And North Korea actually was Radio Pyongyang at that time. They were Radio Pyongyang. Later, there was a change, and I would guess KBS World Radio changed its name because North Korea changed to Voice of Korea, and they thought it was too close. So I would guess they changed to KBS World Radio because North Korea changed to Voice of Korea. So it was kind of a mix-up. You know, Voice of Korea, Radio Korea was so close, and they probably didn't want to have that being too close. But Radio Korea, and I have a lot of QSL cards that are digitized here, which says Radio Korea, actually. So crazy. Canadian Radio TV guy says, yesterday I received an old Canadian-made Marconi vacuum tube TV from the 60s from eBay. Has all original tubes and components and still impressively works except for some vertical issues. Mike WX50 says he's got a log of South Korea on 9720 in 1981. So this interval signal for me is a summer vacation. And, I mean, today would still be, because it was still the same frequency, 15575. A lot of stations actually were using the same frequencies 30 years ago. 15575 that they use right now was used in the 80s when I logged Radio Korea for the first time. And I still remember it was the first time that in the mail I actually had an envelope. And for anybody that received from a couple of Asian stations like Radio Japan, the envelope had two little round reels basically, and there was like a string that you had to like undo from the envelope to open the envelope, which I always thought was kind of a very unique way of closing envelopes. And that was the first time I had an envelope that I had to actually unstring to open it. Also, of course, was so amazed at Radio Korea. First letter I got from them, I still remember, was the envelope was yellow. And there was a QSL, there was a program schedule, and there was a few things. There were stickers. Man, it's crazy. It brings me back in time, I can tell you that. From summer vacations and early teenage years, basically. Pretty crazy. Curtis Gump says some stations that run DX desks, Morse code or sweep tones, sometimes I have not got back a letter or QSL from station. Interesting, especially if you definitely heard the station. Yeah, and that's another issue of QSLing. QSLing, it happens very often that QSLing you're not getting what you want, and that is so sad. VT Radio, nice to have you here. Paul AA1SU from Essex Junction, Vermont. And there's also the fact that letters got lost in the mail. There's a lot of things happening. Sometimes it's not that they didn't answer back. Sometimes they didn't get your letter. Sometimes they got your letter, but you never got the answer back. It got lost somewhere or stolen. It was a hit or miss. There's a lot of stations that, I remember Radio Sweden. I don't know how many reports and how many letters I sent before I got a first reply. And there were some stations like that were kind of difficult. And some stations you're used to getting them and you're like, I always get from ACJB. Every time I would write, I would have an answer back. And then you would write one time, and it was like, I never got an answer. I never got an answer back from that letter. How come? There was part of the mail system that, and I would guess today is still the same thing. If you mail 100 reports, even if 100 letters go out, maybe only 70 will go and reach that station. And out of 70 of that station, maybe only 50 are coming back. And there are stations that just didn't answer also. Some stations didn't care. I remember reading about African stations. There were some of them that they didn't care that you were hearing them in the US or Canada. Because their main goal was to just broadcast to the target audience in their own country. And they didn't have a lot of money. So it's like, yeah, I got this letter from this rich Canadian guy that wants to have some cards that cost money, That's why a lot of my QSL rate of success from African stations actually went up when I started adding a couple of US dollars in the envelope when I would send a reception report. That really, really helped get replies. I got much more replies when I did that than when I just sent letters. And a lot of people were actually doing that for QSLing. John Beckham says his loudest and strongest receive station today is Radio Spain on 17855 in Florida's East Coast. Cool. That frequency has been surprising me. I thought that it was a little high for broadcast to North America, but it turns out to be a pretty good frequency in the evening. I listened to their English and French broadcast on Monday on 17855. It was coming in really, really well. So Bob Lewin, back in the 70s, I received a QSL card from Radio Caroline, the pirate music station that opened from the ship off the coast of Britain that played the BBC back then. Yep, that's cool. That's part of history, actually, also. I mean, Radio Caroline is famous. It's famous around the world for its pirate activity. So you've got, a piece of history there. Yes, VT Radio. Sorry if I didn't answer back, but I did. The Golden Age Shortwave Radio is. I've already seen that before. It's really, really cool to see. Thanks for the link. And I'm sorry sometimes I don't reply always to some of the things I want to. You know what? Half of the times I want to reply to you guys. I see the email you sent me, and I go do something else, and when I come back, I forget. But thanks, VT Radio. Thanks, Paul. Was appreciated. John Beckham says, I was fortunate to make the trip to Sweden back in January 73, and it was such a beautiful country. Regarding the countryside and people, taxi cab were either a Saab or a Volvo. I would guess they would use their own branded cars. Estrella Garcia, nice to have you here. Email verifications are more reliable today, I can tell you that. And, let's not poo-poo EQSLs. I think they are QSLs, and it's better to have that than nothing. Mike WEX50 says, it seems that African stations requested IRCs back in the day. My postman didn't know what an IRC was, though. I had to go to the big city of Fayetteville to get them. Nobody knew what IRCs, anybody that has needed IRCs in their lives, we all went through the same thing. You go to the post office and you say, I need 3 IRCs. And then you rephrase it. It's like, I would like to have 3 international reply coupons, please. And they just stare at you. And you're like, okay, so you don't know what it is. And I remember the first ever time that I needed that, I needed 6 of them. And they were expensive. I wanted to have a copy of a German club magazine. And they were sending you that for 6 IRCs. And I went to the post office. I still remember. And it was a big post office. I go there and I look at the guy. I ask him for international reply coupons and everything. And he doesn't know. He has no idea what I'm talking about. And there's this old guy in the back doing something. And he heard the conversation. And I still remember the whole guy saying, yeah, you got to take that blue binder. You'll see that there's these yellow coupons in there. These are the ones that you have. And thank God that I knew how they had to be done, because I was about to leave the post office with IRCs that were useless because they weren't stamped by the post office. So IRCs back in the days were yellow. So an IRC, for those that don't know what it is, was one IRC was capable of getting stamps for the reply. So sorry, I heard a cat or something. Okay. So, anyways, IRCs. One IRC was supposed to give enough money for postage to reply to a letter. But there was a scam with IRCs. I mean, how many people were asking for tons of IRCs? And I was hearing a lot of stories back then of countries where the IRC, they didn't even give the amount of stamps that was actually supposed to be given with an IRC. There was a big, big scam around all of that. And I remember that, so the guy said, the yellow things. So he gives me that, and I don't know how much they cost, but I still remember they cost a lot of money back in 1985, 6. And I said to the guy, we got to do something because they're supposed to be stamped. The guy says, no, they're okay like that. And once again, thanks to the old guy, he says, yeah, you got to stamp them. He paid. Once he paid, you have to put the post office stamp on it where it was paid. This is the proof that they are worth something. And if they did not, if they weren't stamped, they had no value. So you just basically had, wasted money. So, man, and I didn't ask a lot of them after that, but maybe I needed IRCs 3 or 4 times over times. And I can tell you that they every time I went there for IRCs, didn't know. And it was funny because I knew where they were now because of the old guy. So every time I'd go, I need 4 international reply coupons. And they'd just stare. And I'd look at them and say, well, the blue binder over there, they're in there. They're yellow coupons. And you got to stamp them when it's paid for. And they would go in, they would see the coupons, they would use it. Nobody knew what to do. I would say, look, now I'm going to pay. You have to put the stamp of the official stamp of the post office on it. And it was like, yeah, I should work here, actually. I know where it is and how it works. I should work here. But it's obvious that nobody asked for these things because every time they just didn't know. That means no one used IRCs pretty much. And so, the few times that I asked for it, it's like, wow. And I remember every time I would go to the post office, I was like, yeah, here it goes. I'm going to go get some IRCs and no one knows what they are. I don't even know if I'm going to come back home with some. So crazy. But God, these things, they pretty much don't exist anymore. I've had a few cards that were kind of funny. I had one from Radio Reloge, 4832. I don't know if you guys remember that, from Costa Rica. And they were that odd frequency, 4832. I had a QSL card when I sent a reception report. And they wrote on the back of the QSL, please IRC next time. I was like, oops. Okay. Oh, man. Yogi, nice to have you on board. Good morning. Tuning to BBC Singapore, 11995. Wow. Esther Garcia, what about SDR Uno? VT Radio, I know the stare. I said that I wanted to pay for a DX stamp with an IRC. He had to get out the manual. Yeah, that was like, what the hell are you talking about? Jason Francis says, good evening. Working late shift, but better late than never. Absolutely. RJDA Dakota used to buy IRCs by a small package each time. Old times, yep. But boy, they were expensive. Doug Smith, are there any shortwave signals from Antarctica or near the North Pole? I ran out of countries to monitor. So, Antarctica, your best bet would be, and I've seen a few logs lately around 20 hours UTC. There's LRA36, the Argentina base in Antarctica on 15476. 15476. And there's if you want to hear from Northern Canada, you can try Iqaluit Utility Station with weather broadcast. I actually heard it last week on 6507 upper sideband. It starts broadcasting at 2235 UTC. So you'll have a possibility of Antarctica with LRA 36, and you have a possibility of the Canadian North, Nunavut, and on with 6507. Apart from that, from really northern parts, I know Russia has a lot of little things that are unique to their areas. So, you gotta check it out. Kimberly emailed you 2 different emails just now with photos of my portable antenna. AA6DD made for me under my old call sign email. Okay, yeah, I got emails here. Let's check it out. Check it out. So, antenna that AA6DD made for Kimberly. So, wow, look at that. Look at that, guys. So that's pretty cool. And we have portable antenna on the picnic table. Look at that. That looks like a hell of a nice day to do radio outside, I can tell you that. And here's another view of it. Another view of it. That's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing, Kimberly. That is nice. That is definitely nice. And here's another position where it's being used. Is it better than this way? Yeah, look at that. Near the water. So this is really nice. Anytime we have, outdoor activities like this is so cool. Thanks for sharing with us, Kimberly. Really nice. Love the pictures. What else do we have? We have RT88 Dakota. My dad used to work for the U.S. Postal Service. Dimitri says Spain Audible on 17855 in Minnesota. Bob Lewin, international reply coupon RSC is a type of voucher accepted in multiple countries for exchange for local postage stamps. But, they always wanted to have 7 or 8 or 10, or it was always crazy. Yeah, right. Yeah, Rabamba. There's a lot of QSL cards on sale for and it's sold on eBay. I would just say one thing. Okay, I get that you might want to have that special QSL card, but can I ask you guys one thing? What value is it to have a QSL card from somebody else? I mean, you didn't send for their, you didn't send a reception report, didn't get it by yourself. I don't apart from the fact that, they might be exceptional cards, I would not be happy with them because they're not. I didn't make the effort in getting that card with my own radio. Paul says IRCs, I think, were blue in New Jersey and had like 5 different languages on it, and they would stamp it. Yeah, I remember they were yellow here. Maybe in Canada they were yellow. I don't know. I remember receiving some from Japan with a Japanese post office stamp on it. And I remember because I won something, and I don't remember what. I had won something, and I had a few international reply coupons from Japan, and I kept them because one day I remember I purchased something, so I took those IRCs to pay for it. Mike WDX50, Postman already taught shortwave listeners were a little conspicuous because of their email of the mail from commie stations that we got. Then we were asking for IRCs. Yeah, I still remember. Me and my friend Jean-Pierre, for a while, were QSLing together. So we were writing tons of reports. We were writing every week. And every week we would go out to there was the big post office not far from where I lived. But my friend Jean-Pierre lived a little further away. And he had a very small post office that was in the corner of a jewelry store. And so since I was often at his place, we often went there to get the stamps rather than the main post office that I would go to. The lady there, we went there, I don't know so many times. Like the 4th or 5th time that we went there in about a month, she looked at us and she said, okay, I have a question. Because I see you guys here all the time, always wanting international stamps. What do you guys do with those? And I remember we looked at her and said, oh, we listen to international stations on shortwave radio, and we actually write to them, and they send us all sorts of things in cards. And I remember we told her, next time we come back for stamps, I'm going to show you what we're getting. And we had actually went back the next week, and we brought some letters, some QSL cards, some correspondence, and things like Radio Moscow and so on. She looked at all of that and she said, this is so amazing. I didn't even know it existed. So every time we would go to buy stamps afterwards, she was like, oh, you're going to write to a lot of those stations again? But it was just so funny because it's when she stopped us and she said, I have a question because you guys are here all the time buying stamps. And, not local stamps. We wanted to have stamps for international letters around the world. So it's like, I'm curious now. What are you guys doing with that? And we all know that, in the US and even here in Canada and probably a lot of countries around the world, getting mail from Eastern Bloc countries and Russia, come on, we all had a file somewhere. I probably had a file in Ottawa somewhere with like, this guy is receiving commie stuff, so we better just keep an eye on what he's doing. RJDA Dakota, QSL cards for sale unless you earn your QSL. That's worthless. Yeah, that's the same for me. Curtis Gum got the Texan H51X. What a great radio. Love the 2 speakers and has great FM AM reception. Just got the radio from an Onco. Still got to read the manual still. Amazing radio. It's just great. VT Radio, United States Postal Service stopped selling international reply coupons on January 27, 2013, according to Wikipedia. Paul, mail from Moscow, Pyongyang, raised some eyebrows when collecting from P.O. Box. I would guess. John Beckham, yeah. RJ, rest in peace, IRC, says Michael WDX. RJDA Dakota, 17855 blasts in Winsville, Missouri. What else do we have? John Beckham says, starting to like the Ethon brand of radios. Yeah, you just got to choose the right one, because there are some good stuff in there. There are some so-so stuff. If you choose the good stuff, there's quite a few Ethon branded radios that are pretty nice. Paul 17855 booming into Southwest Michigan tonight. What else do we have? That's one way to do it, Mike. Copy the images of the QSL cars on eBay. There's quite a few websites. If you just Google, like QSL collections and stuff like that, you'll see a lot of AM websites or even shortwave websites that have a lot of pictures of old QSL cards. So Bob Lewin getting 17855 New Jersey. Kev Michael, right? Just it's been Newcastle, Australia, 12:15 at 8 p.m. Yeah, that's impossible. 12:15 at 8 p.m. It's a daylight path to Australia, so it's impossible. Oh, well, Kev, you're in Hawaii. Sorry, I just thought you were, because I said Calgary. I thought you were in Canada. No, you're in Hawaii. That's okay. You get everything there. Kimberly, the ones. What do we have here? The ones not around the water are at Leo Corino State Park near the ocean. And the ones near the ocean water are at Emmawood State Beach. Cool. Really, really a lot of fun. It had a lot of fun. Kevin Michael was using a Bose Wave radio for AMDX. I wish I can change the step to 9 kilohertz for Australia and Japan. Wow. John Beckham enjoying these Sewadon models, R108 and 808 models. They are great radios. I mean, they're really great radios. Paul says, I like it when Jill says Missouri. Sounds like a local. Always have fun, Estrella. Kev, I like Sony US. I heard Sony is leaving the radio market. That is a bummer. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not one of those things that they want to continue. Take care, VT Radio. Just before you leave, I want to remind everybody, and the ones that weren't there in the beginning, Saturday is the last show before I take 4 weeks off for several reasons. The first one is that finally this place is going to be painted. We were supposed to before COVID, then COVID hit and everything got screwed. Second, I need to move everything anyway, because there's, again, bed bugs downstairs, and they have to put that poison all around my apartment twice in the next month. All of that together is like, okay, it's time to reorganize. I actually ordered shelves from Amazon, and will completely redo the office. So in 4 weeks, we will be in August. When I come back, this part might look similar, but everywhere else is going to be totally different. I'm throwing away the corner desk, and I am going to throw away another desk that's on the left side that I see here, replacing them with shelves, and I'm throwing away a lot of stuff. So just to remind everybody, I'll be live Saturday at 20 UTC. Then we are 4 weeks where I will not be on, because I need to redo everything here, and of course paint. So when I come back, it's going to be very different. Okay. What else do we have? What else do we have here? Let's take a quick look at any other. So this is a KBS World Radio QSL card. What else do we have? Radio Romania. I have a lot of Radio Romania QSLs. This one is Radio Bulgaria. In French, they call me Monsieur Letourneau. So it's French. Radio Bulgaria, your friend on the air. And this is from 21 November 2005. Frequency is not written here. Radio Bulgaria. You guys remember Radio Bulgaria? I like Radio Bulgaria. I miss the communist time and the later time when the programs were pretty different. That's for sure. And so let's check out a broadcast from Radio Bulgaria. You probably have some Radio Sofia Bulgaria. So Radio Bulgaria is the name after the communist times. Radio Sofia was when they were in communist era. So here is Radio Sofia. So this is Radio Sofia, Bulgaria, African service in English, signing on. And this is from 1975. Yeah, Radio Sofia in the communist time. Yeah, Sofia, Sofia.
This is Sofia, Bulgaria, calling Africa. This is Sofia, Bulgaria, calling Africa. Radio Sofia broadcasts in English to Africa every evening at 19:05 hours Greenwich Mean Time in the 16 and 25 meter bands, and at 21:05 hours Greenwich Mean Time in the 16, 25, and 31 meter bands.
Good evening, everyone. First, now the news. The announcement of the Bulgarian news agency of February the 15th in connection with the recent developments of the Cyprus problem.
It is. There's a comment that Mike WDX50 did, which is interesting. He says, "It seems like I remember Radio Sofia was communist, but they weren't as stringent as other stations like Radio Tirana." If you've listened to a lot of these stations back then, they weren't all communist. I would say they weren't all equally communist. Some were much more relaxed in their programming and what was talked about. Even Radio Berlin, which was very, it was East Germany. I mean, if there was a representation of what the Cold War and what communism was all about, Radio Berlin was showing that. Yet you had Radio Berlin, Radio Sofia, that were communist. They talked about it, but they were kind of a relaxed communism. I don't know how if you can say it exactly, but their programming was kind of much more relaxed. And then you add on the other scale, Radio Tirana, which was like very strict communists and let's walk together, comrades, and that's the way it is. So there was really a mix of stations, depending on what country you were listening to in the Eastern Bloc. Some were very military style, let's walk straight radio, and some were very friendly, relaxed voice. And you know what? If you look at Radio Moscow, even though they had their viewpoints, even though they had their communist side, most of the Radio Moscow's programming were rather relaxed style communist programming. They weren't trying to scare you. They were trying to kind of be friendly communists and trying to say, well, we are the friendly communists. Maybe you should join us. It was much more of a friendly thing. But they were so different. So many different ways of some were so strict, and it's like, wow, this is, Radio Tirana was the example. Radio Tirana was, look at this broadcast here from Radio Tirana, Shortwave. This is a broadcast that is a perfect example of Radio Tirana. So this is Radio Tirana from 11 April 1985 in English, with the death of like the Communist Party leader of Albania or something. I mean, this was exact representation of Radio Tirana.
Announcement. The Central Committee of the Party of Labour of Albania, the Presidium of the People's Assembly of the People's Socialist Republic of Albania, the Council of Ministers of the People's Socialist Republic of Albania, the General Council of the Democratic Front of Albania. Comrades, communists, workers,
Hey, comrades, communists and workers.
Women, and the
what's
of Albania,
funny with this is not only do we have Radio Tirana Albania, but we even got the woodpecker in the background of it.
We inform you that today, the 11th of April 1985, at 2 hours 15, the heart of the beloved and glorious leader of the party and our people, Comrade Enver Hoxha, First Secretary of the Central Committee of the...
Man, that was like, yeah, okay. So he died. Okay. Radio, I like our JDA's and Mike comments. Our JDA Dakota, Radio Tirana used to make me laugh and scare me at the same time. Mike says, Radio Tirana, the opposite of fun listening. I like to listen to them because it was Albania, and it was like, oh wow, I'm hearing Albania. I don't recall any memories of programs, except that they were very harsh communist. And I remember the first QSL card that I had, red and white, with like the flag. There was like a flag of let's wake up and be revolutionaries or whatever. And it's like, whoa, this is crazy. This is like, wow. Paul brings back memories of Albanian radio glorious leader. Absolutely, RJ Dakota. The fact that you have the woodpecker in the background is like, wow, this, that, just that, it can't be made up. You have that, and you have the woodpecker, and you know that this was recorded off of radio back in 85. It's like, oh man. The Vice 9 says, I always thought the hardliners were the most entertaining. It's like listening to, Radio Pyongyang. Kevin Michael says, I had KCTV Pyongyang, North Korea on Channel 5 with Chairman Kim via satellite. Oh, God. That must be something. Oh, man. That was something. Anything else here? Let's check out a couple of other QSL cards. You guys are not bored, I hope, from my QSL card show off. I wanted to do a little something different tonight. So this is China Radio International from October 27, 2003. And that I remember because that was the time that I was official monitor for China Radio International. And they started asking so many questions that I started thinking, man, are they trying to recruit a Canadian spy for China or something? It was crazy. But I had at that time like QSLs over QSLs. When you get too many QSLs of a station, and you're like, well, now that's kind of boring now. I get a QSL every week. I'm kind of find it really boring. Bob Lewin says, Vladimir Posner on the North American service of Radio Moscow was very believable, as I believe was Americans born and sounded like any American announcer. Perfect Soviet propaganda, but easy to listen to. Radio Moscow was definitely easy to listen to. You would sit down and and of course, we had, especially with the Cold War, I think we wanted to listen to hear more of, it was crazy times. Some of you that are older lived through, the Cuban Missile Crisis and all the tension there. For me, an X-generation guy, I lived through the last part of the Cold War in the 80s. It was almost as heavy as the heaviest moments of the Cold War in the 60s. The Cold War in the 80s was getting real high tension, and there's so many things. And when the Russians, shot down that Korean airline plane, and oh man, it's like, what the hell are we getting into? What's going to happen? It was crazy. The Mike WDX50 says, I don't think I ever got a QSL from Radio Toronto, though. Tried, and we're notorious for not being good responders. I have at least 3 or 4 QSLs from Toronto. But I pretty much had all the QSLs when I asked for back then, but they were extremely slow. If I would send a report, say in January, I'd receive a Radio Toronto QSL in September. They were very, very slow. John Beckham says, now this is what a shortwave radio club is truly all about. Loving every minute. I remember when my family was concerned that I got mail from Moscow, USSR, my QSL. You know what? An interesting question I got for you guys in the United States, because I would guess maybe it wasn't as bad here in Canada, although, Cold War, Russia, and all of that. But I'll ask it to you guys in the U.S., because I think if there was a place where maybe there could be concern, I think you guys were the place. Any of you guys, family or friends, seeing letters or correspondence from a communist country? Did any of you guys or girls have any questioning from friends and family of why you're receiving stuff from Eastern Bloc countries or from Russia? Did any of you ever have that questioning from somebody around you? Just out of curiosity. I didn't. Actually, here it was the opposite. It was more like, this is so cool. You're getting stuff from Russia. And I never got questioned about it in the 80s, particularly. maybe that question would be more for those that have been listening for a longer time than me, because we all know there were some heavy moments between, there was witch hunts and there was so many things happening sometimes of trying to find communist people everywhere. So I would guess maybe depending on the time, maybe, the era or what decade you were listening and receiving correspondence. But did any of you ever have just, and I'm not just asking you guys in the US, wherever you are, did anybody ever have a questioning of, well, why do you receive stuff from these countries? Out of curiosity. If you have any stories to share, please do. Curtis says, back from the province of Ontario, still would love to hear Quebec from California. Would be nice to hear on the AM band, but what are the best bets of hearing Quebec? It's not impossible. But better have some really, really amazing propagation, and it would probably have more chance of that happening in the winter, for sure. Jason Francis says, I'm enjoying a beer and your QSL cards. Cool. RTA Dakota says, Bosnia sounded very much like an American, but comes away with a different style. Mike heard Radio Peking, because China Radio International comes from, it used to be Radio Peking, then it went Radio Beijing, and then it was China Radio International. And one of the things about China Radio International is that they sound so, the announcers sounds like, American announcers on a radio station. It's not like the in the days of Radio Peking and Radio Beijing that sounded Chinese. Jason Francis, in the 80s, I was honestly afraid of nuclear war. Duck and cover. Yeah, duck and cover. That would have worked. Hey, a nuclear bomb is falling. Duck and cover. You're going to be safe. Oh, God. But you know what, Mike? I definitely believe that depending on the country also, it could be it could be different. I believe that there were some stations, if you were a U.S. citizen, it could be a tougher correspondence than if you were, say, Canadian. I'm pretty sure there must have been some choices like that for some communist countries and stations. RJ Dakota says, I was 7 years old during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So-called fallout shelters were everywhere. Doug Noble says, I got a QSL card from Radio Cairo with President Sadat's picture on it right after he was tragically assassinated. Once again, another piece of history, basically. That QSL is a piece of history. J. Dakota says, duck and cover was when I was a little kid. Bend over and kiss yourself goodbye. That was pretty much it. I remember watching that duck and cover at one point, and it was like, it's like there's this big bright flash, and the kid just throws his books in the street and just lies down with his hands in on his neck next to the sidewalk, and you're like, yeah, that really looks safe, and it's going to save you for sure. Oh, God. Kev Michael used to try for Radio Denmark on medium wave, one of the hardest to QSL. Oh, man. Jason Francis, I used to have a pen pal in Russia, and we exchanged plastic models. We used to send boxes every few months. It was so cool. My father used to encourage me to keep communicating. Yeah. 145 SFG says, Vladimir Pozner is still very popular in Russia, TV star now. A lot of interviews and films about many countries. Man. Mike WX50, yes. Radio Denmark was only in Danish. I have one QSL from Radio Denmark. Here. Milky Chan, be afraid of invisible nuclear propaganda bombing your minds from TikTok is worst. Canadian Radio TV guy says, I think Gilles should Rely on airtime on WRMI when YouTube goes down. Just read some of our emails and maybe take some music requests. By the way, streaming is working now. No more issues so far. Cool. Happy to see that. Yeah, no, there would not be any music. Or, you know what? I would not take music requests. I would take interval signal requests. That would be original. A show on WRMI, and you guys can just ask for a interval signal request. That'd be fun. I imagine the guy turning his radio on shortwave radio for the first time in 20 years and hearing Radio Canada International. I was like, oh, wow, Radio Canada's still on the air. Curtis says, I've heard in wintertime the Toronto, Ontario station on 7:40 a.m. 8:20 CHAM, 1610 out of Toronto, possibly. Well, you're not that far. You got to try it. You got to continue trying. Oh, man. Mike says, it seems like I remember when they changed from Radio Peking to Radio Beijing. Took some getting used to. That's, man. So, Paul says, a local postmaster person once asked why I was receiving all this weird mail. Early 80s New Jersey. I explained like you did to the post office at the jewelry store. No official inquiries as far as I know. Chaz Tank, nice to have you here from Louisville, Kentucky. Charlie, W8CFO, attended the Grove Monitoring Times Convention in Atlanta. Posner was the main speaker. Wow, cool. John, is there an all music shortwave station that plays all types of music? Not officially. I think a lot of the stations that play music, like for example WBC, WTWW, are mostly to cover some airtime that they have no programs. Radio Tirana greatest hits. And number 10, we have the only time that the female announcer on Radio Tirana ever laughed. Oh man, that would be worth something. Canadian Radio TV guy says during the Cuban Missile Crisis, radios were actually manufactured with civil defense markings on the AM dial, 640 and 1240 kilohertz. Man. Richard, wish I had all my QSL cards from the 60s. Don't know what happened to them. It would have been nice to look. Yeah. Kevin Michael, Radio RSA. Yeah, okay, let's I'm going to pause again here and let's continue. I'm just going to do one thing here. We were talking about Radio Peking, Radio Beijing. Let's so this is a China Radio International, much more modern Radio Peking shortwave. So here's a Radio Peking from recording from 1980, and it's a interval signal. And here is Radio Peking from 1980.
This is Radio Peking.
This is Radio Peking.
This is Radio PK.
This is Radio PK.
That sounds so shortwave. So, you're talking a radio RSA. Look at the QSL card here. I don't know, you guys, I don't think you can read what's on the screen there. But the frequency of this reception report, 13th August 1983 at 13 hours UTC, 25790. 25790. I mean, that truly is amazing. One of the only QSL card I have that is from the 11 meter band. So this is the QSL, the actual QSL card from Radio RSA back then. So this is pretty amazing. The only 11 meter band QSL I have when all of this happened. So Radio RSA, if we have a little clip here. So here's the Radio RSA from this is Radio RSA from 1989. So here, let's check that out. So the only QSL card I have from the 11 meter band officially.
You are tuned to the English service of Radio RSA, the voice of South Africa in Johannesburg.
I'll show some other Radio RSA QSLs as this is playing.
The time is 2 hours Universal Time. This is Radio RSA, the voice of South Africa, broadcasting from Johannesburg, and we're transmitting to the United States of America and to Canada. And we're broadcasting on 9580 kilohertz in the 31 meter band, 9615 kilohertz also in the 31 meter band, and 6010 kilohertz in the 49 meter band. In our transmission, the news, followed by editorial comment, then our news magazine, Africa South. And we start with the news read by Colin Jackson. In his bulletin, the chief of the South African Defence Force says he believes there's less chance now of another large-scale SWAPO infiltration into Namibia
The Angolan government says there's no question of financial considerations disrupting the schedule for the Cuban troop withdrawal from Angola. South Africa is investigating alleged remarks by the former United States ambassador to South Africa that he would propagate sanctions against South Africa. And an Irish anti-terrorism group has appealed to the ANC to stop its support for the political wing of the IRA. The chief of the South African Defence Force, General Jan Geldenhuys, says he believes there's less chance now of another large-scale SWAPO infiltration into Namibia. Addressing newsmen in Pretoria, General Geldenhuys said that because of international pressure and the criticism that SWAPO had endured after its incursion into the territory on April the 1st, he believed that the organization could ill afford a similar act. Furthermore, although it was not known exactly how many SWAPO cadres there were still south of the 16th parallel in Angola, it was believed that the great majority of SWAPO's forces were now north of the line. This meant that the organization would now not be able to launch the same kind of operation again. General Geldenhuys said that the South African Defence Force estimated that there were less than 250 SWAPO infiltrators still in November in the north of Namibia. Referring to reports that the South African Defence Force was withdrawing its troops from Namibia ahead of schedule, General Geldenhuys said that the withdrawal was actually
Radio RSA,
because of the SWAPO incursion.
Story behind this, my first QSL card from Radio RSA ever. I still remember it being amazed receiving from South Africa. This is from 1983. My first ever QSL card from Radio RSA. Pretty crazy, eh? So I hope you guys enjoy this look back in time of different broadcasts and stuff. Pretty crazy. Let me just check the chat room a little more. So, Ron received propaganda from China back in the mid-'60s after writing and getting QSL confirmation. Even got a copy of Mao's Little Red Book. Yeah, it was popular back then. They would send that a lot. Best-selling podcast in the mid-'70s. I used to listen to BBC, VOA, Radio Moscow on my dad's Philips. I didn't even know I could send them a QSL report. They never mentioned this in those broadcasts for some reason. Radio Moscow would talk about it, but Voice of America, BBC would never mention QSL. It was not their main focus. Smaller stations would often talk about, you can ask for, send them a reception report and stuff like that. I only knew about QSL at the start because the Radio Shack DX300 manual explained that we could get verification cards. And I remember the first time I sent a reception report and seeing a reply, I was absolutely amazed that stations were replying back. Mike says, pretty cool interval signal from Radio Peking. Bob Lewin says, you're bringing back memories with your radio intervals, Joe. I know. And I know some of you are going to be nostalgic after this show ends tonight. I am. I'm getting there, actually. Yeah, Radio Peking was pretty hardliner at the time. Absolutely. Yeah, John. A lot of the jamming from Russia. Russia spent billions of dollars in the jamming of Western signals. It was crazy. Kevin Michael at Radio Peking 11780. 25790. This is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. The only QSL I have, but man, that one is special for that. 25790. I mean, receiving South Africa was amazing. Dave, take care. 73. Yeah, solar cycles were huge back then, so high frequencies were propagating really well. Radio RSA had a strong signal, a pretty good signal. 25790 was for Africa, but because it's broadcast from South Africa towards the north of Africa, of course, North America was catching it. Yeah, that's what I need. Another car alarm. Paul, RSA nice catch on 11 meters. Yep. And I remember that was on my Realistic DX302. Yeah, the apartheid stuff was crazy, Paul. Absolutely. Remember the band that did that song? It was "We Ain't Gonna Play Sun City," "Artists Against Apartheid," something like that. Pretty crazy. RJDA Dakota, Radio RSA was very first QSL verifications. Wow. Yeah, DX shows would sometimes talk about QSLs. Absolutely. John Beckham, does Radio Iceland still broadcast on shortwave? No, Iceland has been gone. Radio Ricky Sudvarpid or something like that. I actually think I got a QSL card here from a from that station. I just hope Ricky Su is it bringing something. Let me just try Iceland. Oh, I think I haven't. It's not finding it. I'm pretty sure I had R. Yeah. I think I don't have. I haven't. Oh, maybe. Wait. Nope. I think I don't have it. Ricky Sudvarpid was a station from Ireland. Or Iceland, sorry. Not Ireland. Not the same thing at all. Iceland. I thought I had Iceland here. I thought I had Iceland. But it seems I probably am not, have not, because I do have a QSL card from radio from Iceland. But probably it's not yet scanned. Man. Balu and the communist station wanted radio reports so they could fine-tune their directional antennas to ensure their programming is getting to where they want it. Yep. RJDA Dakota, Swiss Radio also used 11-meter band. Talking about Swiss Radio International. Take care, M-Stacks. Stay safe. Yeah, because I don't think... Let me check. Reykjavik. Ray. Reykjavik. No, I don't have it here. I think I've... Swiss Radio, you guys, eh? Swiss. Oh, something is interesting here. It's not searching. So let me just click QSL card scans again. And so SWI. So here I got to read Sweden. So let me just go down here because I know, a lot of them are not yet. Okay, I know why. A lot of them have not yet been named. That's why. So let me just go back down quickly here if I can see some of them. So I can, I would recognize the Iceland one easily. Iceland. One that is part of history. I think I showed you guys. Remember this guy? This was Radio Shinrikyo. And he's the guy behind the Japanese sect that put the sarin gas attack in the Tokyo subway. They had a shortwave station. This is a QSL card from that. They had a QSL card. They had a shortwave station. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. That's part of history. I mean, I look at the guy and it's like, yeah, bunch of idiots. Chaz, thanks. Some of the pirate stations used to QSL. Several pirates had the same or similar PO box in West Virginia. Yes, absolutely. I got a lot of QSLs and even some CDs from those pirate stations. Canadian Radio TV guy said there's a song on YouTube if you search called Spectres of Shortwave, not to be confused with the film by Amanda Dawn Christie, although that is a beautiful and sad film. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the film. It's great. It's really, really amazing, and totally worth it. Totally worth it. Yep, the cultists from Japan. I got a QSL card from them. Pretty crazy, eh? Pretty crazy when you think about it. I think that guy got executed, if I'm not mistaken, which is totally what he should have had for what he did. Let me just check out something here. So here is my first ever QSL card from Radio Norway International. And you guys remember Radio Norway, which only was only in English, only on Sundays. I always thought that was so weird. That was only Sunday. Radio Norway International. Let's check it out here. Anything? Radio Norway International Shortwave. Let's see if we can bring out a little something here. So this is Radio Norway. International. Let's check that out.
Radio Norway International. Dette Norge. This is Radio Norway International.
So let's show a couple of other QSL cards from Radio Norway, because I got a few. They're called Radio Norway NRK Radio Top of the World.
Dette Norge. This is Radio Norway International.
This is so interesting. We hear Radio Norway, but in the background we hear Radio Moscow playing Moscow Nights.
Radio Norway.
So funny to hear Moscow Nights on an actual broadcast. That was shortwave in the days, guys. If you didn't have the best receiver in the world, you were hearing tons of things together. So, Radio Finland from Helsinki. So first of all, Radio Finland, there must be a QSL here. I'm just going to try it in case I have Finland. Finland. I don't have anything showing up. But I got quite a few QSL cards from Radio Finland. I don't know if they're here, quick and easy to find. If not, Radio Finland. Radio Finland. Anything here that I could RSA? Some nice stuff here. So they would technically show up if they were there. I can't easily find any Finland QSLs, but I do have some. If we put, darn it. Oh, this is a QSL I was talking about earlier about Radio Tirana. Look at that card from 1983. Let's get up and do some revolution, guys. That was crazy. So let's, oh yeah, radio frequency, Radio Moscow was using a lot of, so YLE Radio Finland. I probably have a QSL here, or if not, it's still not scanned, but I do have Radio Finland QSLs. And if we look at, Radio Finland Shortwave. Radio Finland Shortwave. From 1977, Radio Finland English service to the Far East. And here we go. Hey, Wood Beast. Nice to have you here. Thoughts on IoT? It's nice, but there needs to be better security. It was crazy. The bands were packed. It was difficult. I'm sure you guys had that moment that I've lived through so many times. Frustration.
This is Radio Finland calling. We begin our Sunday transmission to the Far East and Australasia on 21.495 megahertz. We also broadcast to Europe on 11.755 megahertz. At 0930 GMT, listeners in the Far East and Australasia should retune to 17.785 megahertz. For listeners in Europe, an additional frequency is available at 0930, 15.27 megahertz.
Here's a QSL from Finland from our friend Mike.
Next from Helsinki, this is Eddie Hawkins with Radio Finland in its Sunday best.
Acres 66. So Radio Finland. Crazy, eh, guys? Now let's go to Radio Denmark is my favorite. Radio Denmark. Yeah, Radio Denmark. I do have a QSL from Denmark here. I do have. I don't know if I hope I had time to fortunately not coming up, so I haven't had time. I need to give names to these cards so they're easier to find. I have a Radio Denmark QSL in here somewhere, and it's easy to actually find in there, but is this one? Here we go. Radio Denmark. Radio Denmark. This is a QSL from Radio Denmark. I think it's the only QSL I have from Radio Denmark. And Radio Denmark Shortwave. They only broadcast in Danish. Here is Radio Denmark from January 1973. January. time would be.
Radio Denmark, Shortwave Department, Copenhagen, calling Southeast Asia in the 19-meter band, 15.165 megacycles. This station broadcasts exclusively in Danish. Danmarks Radio. Vi sender til Sydasien på 19,7.
Only in Danish. Yeah, for ham radio, I actually had registered for a course in for April. Never got back, so it's going to be a next try. I'm going to check it out this fall for sure. So Tampa Bay wins the cup. That's why it's very, very, very quiet outside, and I don't hear anything. So Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup. Oh well, we were close. Kev Michaels got QSL from Caribbean Beacon, Angola, HCJB Quito, Ecuador, RTB Lisbon, Portugal. Wow. I got cards from Portugal from HCJB. Calling Southeast Asia in Danish. Yeah, Chastank. So the one of the very, very, very one of the very popular stations back then, of course, a lot of you have had. So this card is one of the first cards I had. This is the control board at HCJB. So notice I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me just see here on the screen. So notice the logo here. And this is 1983. This was the year, the international year of telecommunications, and all their QSL cards from 1983 all have to do with radio communications. That's one. 1983. Here's 9 April 83. This is the first ever QSL card I've ever received from HCJB. And this is for April 9th, 1983. So pretty crazy. John Beckham says, I was in Sweden and Denmark, and as I mentioned earlier, back in 73, I was probably in Denmark when they broadcast that program. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. RAI, you're talking about the Italian station, Radio RAI in Italy. They're off shortwaves now. So, this is my first ever HCJB QSL card. And HCJB shortwave. Look at what's available here. You guys remember 9745, one of the major frequencies they used. 9745 was one of the solid frequencies for North America. And here's a little something from 1994.
Bamboo! Gail Gift is right today. I think we peaked the meters on that one. And did you know that it grows as high as 100 feet?
03 UTC.
You know that I grew up in an island kid, and we
that sounds like musical mailbag.
Yes.
Well, speaking pop.
Yes.
My brother and I, and someone told me that it actually tastes like a grass. So
yes,
that made me think of the bamboo I used when I was a little girl. You see there?
Here we go. What you learned. All right. We'll see you next week back on the mailbag. All kinds of fun stuff from Kurt Cole.
I'm Michael Ledencatter. Bye from Giselle Russell. Bye from Gail Pepper.
And bye from Ralph Kurtenbach. Andes, HCJB from Quito, Ecuador, is broadcasting in the English language in the 31 and 25 meter band frequencies of 9745 and 11925 kilohertz. The time in Quito is 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the very same as 0300 UTC.
World Cup celebrations turned violent in California. The French arrived too late in Rwanda for most Tutsis, and one ceasefire is put in place while another is promised. With news from
Yes,
Latin
Cannery,
America,
the pirate station, WLIS, we love interval signals.
USA fans celebrating a Mexican World Cup victory.
And of course, anybody that talks of HCJB
more than an hour.
has to talk about something that a lot of us listen to, which was the famous show that was called the DX Party Line.
Lots of DX reports from our listeners and more. Just a quick, let me think now. I think it's about an 11-hour drive, if I remember back, from last July. Popayan, Colombia.
There's one here, which was the last broadcast, which actually, when I started listening to the DX Party Line, Clayton Howard and his wife was the guy that was on the show, the announcer. So here is
DX Party Line. This is a program for DXers by DXers and about the DXing hobby. We invite you to stay tuned for the next 30 minutes.
I actually have that QSL, that special QSL they had back then.
It's Monday, time for another Monday edition of the DX Party Line. I'm Clayton Howard, your host, and my wife Helen will be along a little later in the program. And this is rather a difficult or hard, I don't know quite how to describe it, program for us because, as you may realize, some of you I'm sure have heard that we'll be leaving Quito soon. And this is the last time that we'll be hosting a DX Party Line. It's going to be hard for us. We're going to miss being on the air twice a week for DXers and shortwave listeners. But we do appreciate all the contacts we've made, all the friends, and your contribution and your letters and help. Well, that's enough of that type of beginning for the program.
Can't find it easily, but I have the QSL card.
That's ahead of us.
I have the QSL card that goes with that special broadcast, and they had a special QSL card that they sent out, and they were actually signed by Clayton Howard and Helen Howard, which was really, really cool. Radio Austria, Doug Noble. Yeah, Radio Austria had some nice, a lot of them had so many fantastic QSL cards. Radio Austria's first QSL that I have. Austria. Hopefully it's going to show up. Oops, wrong keyboard. If I do Austria, 19, and do I have the card? Austria. So card, Radio Austria from September 1st, June 53. Okay, so I've got one here. I probably have one. I have one which is earlier. This is Radio Austria from 1984. But I probably have one from Austria. Here we go. First ever QSL card from Radio Austria I've got. This card is a sunset over their transmitter site in Moosbrunn. So this actually still exists. The transmitter site in Moosbrunn still exists. It's used for relays for many stations. And it actually is still used. Radio Austria is actually still on shortwave. A lot of people don't know that. Radio Austria is still on shortwave, but they only broadcast in German. And if you listen in, I think it's around 05 UT, something like that, on 6155. It actually is still there. So let's see if we can get a little Radio Austria shortwave. Anything interesting here? So this is Austrian shortwave panorama, and it talks about the Romanian Revolution, apparently. Radio Austria International from 1989 here.
With the rerun of a program first broadcast on the 31st of December last year, illustrating one of the most momentous events of 1989, possibly of the whole 1980s, the overthrow of the communist dictatorship in Romania. The recordings were all taken off the air.
Yep, in Vienna, John Beckham.
The well-known identification signal used by Radio Bucharest, which was being listened to more attentively than usual during the closing week of 1989.
Device 9 on shortwave, for the most part, on shortwave. The stations pretty much were maxed out at 500 kilowatts. But long wave stations and some medium wave stations were in the megawatt category, 1,000 kilowatts and even more. If we have Radio Austria interval signal. So Radio Austria's interval signal was, I think we have it at the start here, maybe. Let's check it out. If we do. What do we do? Trying to. There we go.
Radio Austria International. Radio Österreich International.
Radio Austria International. Radiotrice Internationale.
Radio Austria International. Radio Österreich International.
Radio Austria International. Radiotrice Internationale.
Radio Austria International. Radio Österreich International.
Radio Austria International.
Radio Austria International presents Report from Austria today with Elizabeth Blaine.
Austria's musical summer offers lakeside festivals, festivals in the mountains, the impeccable, unimpeachable Brandl Damm festivals in Salzburg, and a series of programs in the Austrian capital, utilizing its fine old palaces and special points of interest. We focus on an especially interesting musical summer program right after the news.
And of course, one of the things I wanted to show you guys before we leave for the night after 3 hours, you guys remember this special broadcast, which was I've seen it a little earlier. I'm probably going to find it easily. Here we go. Do you guys remember the special broadcast that had every year Radio St. Helena? This is a QSL card from Radio St. Helena that was on 11092.5 kilohertz. And this was happening once a year on shortwave. They were using one of their utility transmitters that had, I think, something like 1 or 2 kilowatts. So that was something. That's a card from 1992. And I don't know if I can, I remember seeing here it is. There's a little clip here from Radio St. Helena. That one is our hard reception here, but it's one of the Radio St. Helena broadcast videos. I remember there was one that I had once. How about this one? Here it goes. So there's some music. Just gonna. None of the clips that I find are really good in quality, but I remember hearing one that wasn't too bad. But Radio St. Helena, for those of you that were listening back then, that was something. St. Helena was using 11092.5. It was a utility station on the island. Take care, Bob Lewin and 2VOI. And if I'm not mistaken, Radio St. Helena 11092.5 power. How much power were there? They were broadcasting. They were broadcasting over the islands. Utility. I'm trying to find, but it was very weak. It was something like barely more than 1 or 2 kilowatts. It was maybe a couple of thousand watts. That's it. I can't find real quick here the information, but at most, maybe I don't know why in my mind it comes up to about 2.5 kilowatts, which is 2,500 watts, which was very weak. So that was something. Yep, QSL card. I'm happy that this is a QSL I'm proud of for sure. I mean, Radio St. Helena. And they stopped when the utility station went off the air. They didn't have any transmitters anymore to power up. So, you guys remember when WRNO was a station called the Rock of the World? Where WRNO was once called the Rock of the World. That was something. That was something. Anything special out of the ordinary I could see here? Stations that are now gone. You guys remember a station that was KCBI International that are gone? It's like, wow. So device 9. Yeah, a lot of the broadcasters are actually notice that their signal actually comes in without having to pump that 500 kilowatts. But there's still a lot of 500 kilowatters out there. Radio France and quite a few stations actually do use the full 500 kilowatts still. Any other thing? Well, this one is a unique one. You guys remember CKZN out of Newfoundland, Canada? The CBC outlet that I was on 6160 kilohertz. That is Sun Pleo. Nice to have you here. That was another one that was kind of unique. It was sad when they actually went off the air. This one is also quite unique. This is FIBA Radio in the Seychelles. That's pretty unique. FIBA Radio. Anything here? For those that are jealous because today it doesn't exist anymore. This is an actual BBC World Service QSL card. QSL card. Pretty crazy. Then we have a couple of other cards from Radio Tirana, a little more modern. This is Radio Tirana. This is apparently their broadcast building. Back then, at least. Vatican Radio. Of course, lots of cards that I have from Radio Moscow. This is one. Radio Moscow. Radio Moscow. This one is from a Radio Lyra, Adventist World Radio, 60-meter band. Here we were talking Radio Sofia earlier. Here's a Radio Sofia card. And remember they had these brown cards where you could actually fill up for the reception reports. So what else do we have here that would be of interest? Anything? I've got quite a lot of stuff here. This is Radio Ulaanbaatar, that today is called Voice of Mongolia. Voice of Mongolia. Or Radio Ulaanbaatar. What about Radio Cologne? Yeah, Deutsche Welle, West Germany. Yeah, absolutely. We're just here. DU. I hope I had time to DAU. There we go. Here's one QSL from Deutsche Welle in Radio Cologne in West Germany. Rafael Rosa, what frequency? I don't remember. I would have to find the back of the card, which is not, unfortunately, not numbered. Radio Tirana, by the way, is still heard on via WRMI, by the way. You can still hear Radio Tirana via WRMI. Radio Tirana's broadcast building, aka the House of Fun. Oh, man. So that was Radio Deutsche Welle. Anything of interest that I could see quickly here? If you guys remember Radio Polonia. Radio Polonia, I just saw here. Radio Polonia, I lost them. They were in the face 2 seconds ago. Radio Polonia. Sorry. Oh, just saw him. And just lost him again. Radio Polonia. Here you go. Here's one from the 80s. Krakow. Radio Polonia. Radio Polonia. Finished listening to Deutsche Welle. Taught me how to say, yeah. I was always looking at like Deutsche Welle. What's Deutsche Welle? But every time I would listen to them, it was like Deutsche Welle. Oh, that's how you pronounce that word. Radio Polonia send you a cookbook. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Radio Bulgaria sent me a 4-track cassette that I still have here. I'm sure I need to find it, of Bulgarian music that obviously was bootleg. It was a standard 4-track cassette of a recording. So it's like they made copies of their own stuff. So it's pretty crazy. One of the interval signals that was kind of very harsh, well, Radio Polonia back in the 80s had a very communist interval signal. Radio Polonia interval signal. It was very harsh, I remember. So this was, because there's the new one, Radio Polonia, that was more different, but there's the original one was. No, that's the modern one. That's the modern one. But the one in the communist era was much more old. Radio Polonia. Here we go. This one's going to be the one.
Radio Polonia.
Oh, this one is rather
Radio Polonia.
Like a very dramatic piano. That was something. That was something. Yeah, sounds very serious. Absolutely, Device 9. It's like, okay, Radio Polonia, it's time to just like, stop smiling and just listen. There's a few Africans that I've got that are really nice, like Radio Tanzania here in Dar es Salaam. That's pretty cool. What was the frequency and time? It's here. So this is the back of the card. Wow, 1996. That was pretty late. 5050 kilohertz. Thank you for your reception report dated 16 July 96, 5050 kilohertz, which is in accordance with our frequency and program schedules. Transmitter power 10 kilowatt. Antenna type horizontal quad full something cage dipole. So that was from there's no time, unfortunately. 1996. Oh, man. Yeah, the beautiful QSL cards from Radio Australia that we all miss. This is Radio Australia QSL. There had a lot of nice QSL cards out of Australia. I love that station and love the QSLing. It was really amazing. Another African I just saw here. Lesotho Broadcasting. Lesotho National Broadcasting Service. The voice of Lesotho. And this is, do I have the back of that card? Trying to find out. Is this the one? No, that's Indonesia. So I'm mixing up Indonesia here. Is this? What's what? Trying to find which one is what. Yeah, Lesotho. 10 June 96. 0433 to 0505. And I guess it was on 4800 kilohertz. That's pretty amazing. It was pretty powerful, 100 kilowatts though. Some really nice cards in there, can tell you that. Always love this one. This was one of my favorite Radio Australia QSL cards with the penguins. It's pretty cool. Radio Australia. And there's a lot that I'm missing in there that are beautiful and fantastic. My first ever, do I see it here? I don't see it here. I mean, there's a lot of cars that are amazing in there. Of course, Radio Kuwait QSL cards, which were kind of a pamphlet that you could open and had multiple pages. Radio Kuwait QSL card. Radio France International QSL card. Japan had always some really nice QSL cards. Radio Japan. These are really nice stuff. Anything special here? United Arab Emirates Radio. I don't know if you guys remember that. Here we go. UAE Radio Dubai. Remember that from my summers back then. And there's so much more in here. Radio Cairo in Egypt. There's another one here. That was nice. You were one of the stations with a lot of serious QSL card. Radio Canada International, of course. Here's one with the human rights, les droits de l'homme. Radio Canada QSL card. So much more. There's stuff in here that I need to take out. What is this? Here's another one. Radiodiffusion Télévision Marocaine. This is Morocco. 17,595 kilohertz. Pretty crazy. Some really nice stuff in here, actually. Really nice stuff. And there's so much more. So, hey, you guys. Scott Belcher, Radio Australia is no longer on the air, unfortunately. They left Shortwave a few years ago. What antenna was I using? Portugal. I have, let me check it out. Portugal. Back then, it was simply a long wire. I had a long wire antenna. So let me just check it out here. QSL card scans. Do I have them? PORT. Did I have time to? Nope. So there must be a RDP Portugal in here somewhere. Let me just see if I can quickly spot one. It's interesting because I actually spot them quite easily because I remember the cards that were back then. Portugal, do I spot one quickly? Unfortunately, I do not spot one real fast, but I definitely have a couple of Portugal QSL cards in here. Here. Sorry, but I can't find it real fast. But I definitely had a couple of Portugal cards. Absolutely. So, hey guys, we've been on for almost 3 hours and a half. Hope that you enjoyed this show. Yes, Steve, I have actually my books are right here. I can see them. My big books. I do have the paper cards still. Absolutely. But I wanted to have electronic copies of them in case something happens. And they're stored in the cloud. So, hey, we're going to be back on Saturday. Don't forget, this is the last week before I take 4 weeks off of live shows. So why not be there Saturday and have fun for the last time before a month. Hope you enjoyed the QSLs tonight. It was a very different show from usual, and the nostalgia of the QSL cards brings us really, really back into the good old days of radio listening, and truly one of those moments that we all have these little emotions when hearing some of this stuff. Well, actually, my time off will be a complete redo of The Office because there's several things happening. And I have to, so it's going to be painting, totally changing the office and everything. It's not a vacation. It's really I'm going to be hard at work doing a lot of complete redesign of the office. And there's a lot of little things in there that are forcing me to do it anyway. So it's going to be mostly work and redoing the office. So we're going to be back for the last show on this Saturday at 20 UTC. Hope you enjoy that. And then we're going to be 4 weeks off when we come back. This part might still look the same, but the rest of the office is going to be totally different. So hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And stay safe, everybody. See you Saturday if we're there. If you're not there Saturday, see you in a month. We'll be in August, so it's going to be already summer. Will be advanced a little more. So stay safe, everybody, and let's end with our, of course, interval signal, which is Radio Moscow's Moscow Nights. And hope that you enjoy the show. Stay safe. And take care, everybody. Love you all, guys. Stay safe.